Yo, what's up, peoples? Welcome back to the channel, man. It's your boy CartoonTaj, and I'm about to hit you back with another reaction video. Oh yeah, you know how we do it, man. Y'all make sure spam that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, because we about to get it going, man, on this nice fine Sunday afternoon. And man, our special video we got today is the dark side of 1980s basketball. The creator that made this video is Swish County. I'll make sure I have the video down below so you guys can all check it out right after, of course, you check it out with me. And without further ado, let's get it.
The NBA was circling the drain. Under Larry O'Brien's weak leadership, the league had zero marketing, no star power, and was being taken less seriously than college basketball. And every time a superstar looked like they were ready to carry the torch, they'd crash and burn. David Thompson was a high-flying scoring machine. Dude dropped 70 in a game and had the biggest contract in the league.
Thompson up court. 1.6ers lead. Thompson. Look how high he is. His hand is up into the rim. His head's almost touching the net. What a great play.
You know, man, people always talk about, you know, we don't want to see the 80s or 90s no more. We done with the 90s or 80s. But man, of course, you got guys today, Ja, Ant-Man, they dunking on cats today. Man, back in the 80s, bro, we had David Thompson. Of course, you had MJ. You know, you had Dr. J. You know, you have all those greats, man. And that's what we're really seeing. We kind of just noticing about 80s basketball. But this guy's about to dive in a lot more than what we all think. Let's continue watching.
He was idolized by kids around the globe, including Michael Jeffrey Jordan, who modeled his game after him. But fast forward a couple years, and he's in rehab and jail, blown out by cocaine. Then there's Marvin Bad News Barnes, who beat out Moses Malone for Rookie of the Year and was putting up 24 and 16 as a rookie, but lived like he was John Gotti. He'd show up to the locker room in a fur coat and sunglasses with a briefcase full of blow, a Glock in his pockets, and a woman on each arm. He missed team flights.
Yo, I'm sorry for pausing, man. I know it's 2 minutes. You 2 minutes in, I already paused twice, man. And I know you guys love, I know you ladies, sorry, love this nice cartoon, hysteria of CartoonTaj, but wait, this American gangster Frank Lucas? What did I just see this now? The man had a fur coat, he had a Glock, and white women around him? Oh man, what is going on? Man, the NBA is fantastic.
Snorted cocaine on the bench, dropped over $1,000 a day on blow, and was out of the league by 26 years old. Shit really got out of hand.
Man.
But just when the NBA looked like it was going to collapse entirely, two college kids emerged that would end up saving the entire league. Larry Bird, the trash man from Indiana, was now averaging near 30 and 15, dragging Indiana State, a team literally nobody cared about, into the national spotlight. Magic Johnson, a 6'9" point guard with flash, charisma, and vision like we've never seen before or again, was lighting up Michigan State. Two Midwest legends, two hometown heroes, one championship game. The 1979 NCAA title between Bird and Magic was easily the most iconic in the history of the sport, drawing in a ridiculous 35.1 million live viewers, the most in college basketball history. And from there, the NBA's luck finally started to turn. Bird was drafted by the Celtics the year prior, Magic went number 1 overall to the rival Los Angeles Lakers. This really seemed to be too good to even script. But in the formation of the league we love, a little bit of dumb luck certainly went a long way. The rivalry was born, and the stage was set for one of the greatest decades in basketball history. The second they stepped onto an NBA floor, it was like the league got hit with a defibrillator. With just one rookie, the Celtics went from 29 to 61 wins, one of the most insane single-season turnarounds in league history. Bird wasn't just dominating, he was talking shit, kicking ass, and taking names. He won Rookie of the Year, and Boston was officially back. With literally just the addition of a slow-footed white dude from French Lick, Indiana, the most storied basketball franchise of all time up to that point had gone from a very disappointing aging squad to an NBA championship contender overnight. After a commanding 4-0 sweep over Houston in the first round, Larry Bird and the Celtics matched up with Dr. J, who outside of Kareem seemed to be the most dominant player of the prior decade. It was no surprise that the Doctor had his way a bit in the
Before they about to touch on the Doctor, man, I got to go ahead and talk about Bird and Magic and how Bird and Magic kind of they saved the NBA. Really, like you say, the NBA was on coke, and guys wasn't really it wasn't a very family friendly sport at the time when it comes to viewership from the NBA. I mean, guys coming into work like they Frank Lucas, bro. They coming into work like they Nino Brown. I mean, man, they coming into work like they just shoot. They actually is dealing. They dealing and hooping at the same time. And it just go to show you, man. You know, you bring a smiling brother from Michigan and a trash talking white guy from Indiana. They played a national title game in college and got into the league and became two of the biggest stars of the sport until MJ. And yeah, man, it's crazy just the evolution of the NBA. Say about
series. But with this kind of run out of just a rookie, it was clear that he was on his way to dominate the league. Well, if this other kid didn't just one-up him. On the other side of the country, Magic Johnson and the Los Angeles Lakers punched their ticket to the biggest show in the world, the NBA Finals. With big names like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Julius Erving, Bobby Jones, and Daryl Dawkins, all with more experience under their belt, this series is where Magic Johnson went from man to legend. After 5 games, the Lakers were up 3-2 heading back to Philadelphia. But after an injury to their star in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, things weren't looking as bright as it may seem. With an all-time great center matching up with you in Daryl Dawkins, and a major hole at the center position from the Lakers, how the hell are you supposed to game plan this? Well, the Lakers were just about as clueless as the rest of us, it seemed, opting to put their starting point guard in Magic Johnson at the center position in an attempt to close out the 76ers at home. It may have seemed like a silly move at the time, but what the Philly crowd was about to witness was one of the greatest individual performances that basketball has ever seen.
Half ball. Stolen by Nixon on the bad pass. Norman comes back, and here's Magic inside for the layup. Send him to the free throw line. Jones, 9 on the shot clock. Whip it inside to Magic.
Well, then they're out of position when they commit fouls like that play on Cooper.
Here comes the 20-year-old rookie down the middle. Dawkins went to him and scored and sent him to the line.
With one of the craziest stat lines in a closeout game in history at 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists with 3 steals and a block, Magic Johnson had one of the best finals performances of all time, let alone for just a rookie. With Bird seemingly ready to gain control of the East and Magic already on top of the world, the NBA was clearly back on top. Right? Well, in actuality, this wasn't even close to the truth. The NBA was so far behind other sports that Magic Johnson's legendary performance was on tape delay, broadcasted hours behind its actual occurrence. This may seem ridiculous nowadays, but even with the addition of
I mean, the NBA Finals was on tape delay back in the day. But come on, Magic Johnson? His game was on tape delay at the NBA Finals after his legendary 42-point performance? Interesting.
Superstar talent in the 1980 season, the NBA was still a fucking joke, man. Drugs still reigned over the NBA like a dark cloud that would not go away. Terry Furlow was a good friend of NBA greats like Julius Erving and Isaiah Thomas, who had reached a high point in his career. When talking about Furlow, his Atlanta coach stated, he was competitive as hell. He'd fight you in a game, and he understood the toughness of the NBA. There were some other things that he just couldn't get past. Sadly, Furlow was a contributor to the cocaine problem in the NBA. He was a good player, by most accounts, a good father, friend, and teammates, but sadly his problem with drugs would inevitably destroy him that season. After closing the door on what was his best season to date with the Utah Jazz, Furlow would go out with teammate Foots Walker for a few beers and maybe a little booger sugar as well. Unfortunately, Terry Furlow decided to drive home that night, crashing into a light pole with cocaine and Valium in his system, along with open beers and bags of weed in the car, killing himself and leaving his son fatherless. At the same time is when the GOAT Marvin Barnes would be playing his final days in the NBA at the end of his downward spiral. This dude was so coked up, not understanding the concept of time zones, and refused to step onto a plane that was set to land earlier than it departed because, quote, "I ain't getting in no damn time machine." Marvin Barnes opted to rent a car and drive 5 hours in a rental instead.
Hey man, when you high, you high. And this man was clearly coked out of his mind. He thought getting in a plane and switching time zones is like getting into a time machine. I ain't never heard that before. I ain't never.
I mean, this guy was so messed up on drugs, he damn near became a different person. My motto was live hard and die young. I didn't expect to be around long, so I figured I'd die in a shootout where I grew up. I lived for the moment, so I drank, used marijuana, and snorted coke when I could. The coke intensified everything. When I got that rush, I thought the coke was making me a better ball player. Barnes, although promising at one point, was a complete shell of himself by the 1980s season, averaging 3 points a game, and was also getting in trouble for shit like taking loaded guns on airplanes. Barnes would not find another contract in the NBA, would bounce from prison cells to couches after spending all of his $4 million NBA earnings on drugs. With promising young stars doing shit like this, man, even with the picture-perfect new faces of the NBA staring you dead in the eye, to say that the future of the NBA was all sunshine and rainbows isn't even close to the truth. Through all the drugs, through all the violence, and through all the darkness, all Larry Bird could think about was that bastard Magic Johnson that had beaten him out in the national championship, and now just won a damn NBA Finals while he was just getting his feet wet. And in the 1981 season, this guy for damn sure wasn't going to let this happen again. With 21, 11, and 5.5 on a 62-20 Celtics squad, Bird was already second in MVP voting in his second NBA season. But with the big-time additions of Robert Parrish as a defensive bruiser and Kevin McHale poising as a big-time interior scorer, these Celtics were legit. After sweeping the Chicago Bulls in the first round, it looked like the Celtics' Cinderella run was about to meet a brutal end to the same hands as the year prior. Led by Julius Erving and Daryl Dawkins, the Philadelphia 76ers came out swinging, jumping out to a commanding 3-1 series lead. The Celtics looked overmatched, outclassed, and for the second year in a row, were just a group of kids getting shown up by a dude who had been there before. But then, Larry Bird turned it into a goddamn movie. With 32 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists, Bird dragged Boston to a narrow 2-point win in Game 5, keeping their season alive. And from that moment on, the series turned into an all-out war. This was 80s basketball at its purest. These two teams truly didn't give two fucks about the well-being of the other, with a level of physicality that would put a modern
80s basketball at its finest. Punching, wrestling, fighting, cursing, spitting, snorting coke in the locker room, drinking beer. Hey, NBA is fantastic.
day ref into cardiac arrest. Game 6, a 2-point thriller. Game 7, a 1-point nail-biter. And when the dust finally settled, the Boston Celtics were back on top. And one of the most intense basketball towns on earth, this unassuming white kid who just a few years ago was picking up trash after quitting basketball had become the new face of the NBA. And just like that, in only his second year in the league, Larry Bird was headed to the NBA Finals. 2 years ago, this Boston team was struggling to pack seats, Moses Malone was the MVP of the league, and the Celtics were winning 20-some games. Fast forward to 1981, and Larry's Celtics were busting Malone's Rockets in 6 games to take home an NBA championship. This was certainly a sweet one, man. Not only did Larry Bird do it as the undisputed leader of the team, which in Magic's case was certainly debatable at best, but dropping off the team who Magic's Lakers lost to take home a championship in just your second season is something that went down in the history books.
Now Larry, as soon as he shot that ball, knew he missed it. He knew he missed it right. He took off right for the basket again, not being boxed off the boards. Made an incredible recovery and shot it in with his left hand. Just a great, great shot. You won't see much better moves than that.
Seconds, one, and the world champion, the Boston Celtics.
By 1982, the product of the NBA had seen a clear turnaround. Although their stories were just beginning to be written, there was a clear light at the end of the tunnel with an ultra-marketable smile in Los Angeles and an equally marketable mullet in Boston. But that's not to say that everything on their ends was perfect. In Sports Illustrated's season preview, Coach Paul Westhead, who led the Lakers to the 1980 championship, was praised for his continued success in Los Angeles. But less than 2 weeks into the season, despite the team holding a solid 7-4 record and riding a 5-game win streak, tensions boiled over. Magic Johnson, frustrated with Westhead's system and direction, exploded in the locker room and demanded the coach be fired immediately. The next day, Westhead was out of there. The media pounced, labeling Magic a coach killer, a reputation that stuck, especially after a rocky prior season. Suddenly, the league's golden boy was being painted as a moody, high-maintenance star no matter how brilliant his play. The Lakers were winning at an elite rate. Truly, the 1-2 punch with Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was unstoppable. But things weren't exactly peachy in the locker room. Kareem and Magic would at times butt heads in a way that made them seem on different wavelengths. Kareem states that at times Magic would stray away from what made them great in the first place. But given their own individual greatness as well as their success as a duo, there really isn't too much to complain about here. Where things got awkward was with the other Lakers point guard in Norm Nixon. Nixon may not be too well known, but this guy was a legitimate all-star, playing a double point guard lineup next to Magic Johnson. That's a pretty unique role to mesh to, and Norm had the talent to get that done. But where things became a little weird was in the different treatment of both of them. Nixon was always insulted. And
Showtime Lakers was just really special to behold, man. I mean, just fast break up and down the court, fast break, push the ball, push up the tempo. You got Norm Nixon, he come in. You got him and Magic, so you got two really good ball handlers, two guys that can really play make out of this world. Magic, the best of all time, doing it. You know, it's really unstoppable to really stop. Even though they was on dope. Some of them, that is, allegedly.
Put down throughout Jerry West's tenure as the coach, and although claiming to not be intimidated by the drafting of Magic Johnson, teammates and witnesses claim otherwise. Jealousy is ugly, Michael Cooper said, and we all knew Norman was really jealous. I'm not sure if this guy was insecure or really competitive, but the Nixon-Magic feud got pushed to a weird extent. Nixon saw everything Magic did as competition. For the ball, for playing time, for women, who's the coolest, who's the smartest. Me and Cooper would just sit back and watch. They certainly respected each other, but there was this weird tension. The Norm Nixon-Magic Johnson beef came to a screeching halt when Norm would be in an overly publicized deal to the Clippers. To this day, Magic and the Lakers claim Magic didn't have a part in this, in which Nixon himself still believes, but that didn't make the scenario any less strange. The Lakers received word that Nixon may have had a bit of a drug problem, which would of course be as good of a reason as any to ship him out of Los Angeles, where the fit wasn't perfect for a number of reasons. At this point, Nixon was being followed by investigators.
Wait a minute. Norm Nixon with a drug problem, they suspect. I thought that was the NBA at that point. You know, I just thought that, hey, he coked up, but he still get hoop. You know, it's all good with me. Just don't end up dead eye in court. That's what I thought it was, man. But hey, man, shout out to the Lakers. I did not know. I thought it was all show.
Investigators hired by Jerry West, who claimed to have found him at one point speaking to drug dealers. Reports of Nixon being a cokehead who was caught buying Quaaludes surfaced, which were denied by multiple close parties of Nixon. But regardless, the weird locker room tension in Los Angeles only became weirder as Nixon would be traded following the issue. Despite drama at every twist and turn, shit just always tends to work out for the Lakers, man. They crushed the rest of the league in the 1982 season. They finished 57-25, which may not seem insane on paper, but they swept the Suns in the first, swept the Spurs in the second, and spanked the 76ers in 6 games in the NBA Finals to hoist the trophy after only losing 2 games all playoffs. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more unfair, the Lakers walked into the draft and grabbed James Worthy with the first pick. How the hell do you beat that? James Worthy fit their up-tempo offense like a glove, serving as one of the best third options in NBA history. I mean, this is why everyone hates these guys, man. Even when shit seems to be hitting the fan, of course it always just has to end up peachy perfect. And Larry Bird was hating every minute of it. Playing with a bit of championship hangover, the 1982 season was a low point for Larry Bird. Larry finished as second in MVP voting, which you could just kind of come to expect from him at this point, but with a big 3 of his own in Boston, and the number 1 odds to take home another championship, Larry fell flat on his face. Matching up with the squad that gave him more hell than any, the Philadelphia 76ers just had this guy's number, holding Bird to well below his regular season averages at just 18 points on 41% from the field and 20% from 3. The Philadelphia 76ers were able to contain the Birdman enough to squeak by into the NBA Finals. I mean, this was his worst series of his life. Larry was richer than his wildest dreams as a poor kid from Indiana, touched gold in his second season, and by his fourth, was somewhat coasting. At 56-26, this was the worst Celtics team with Larry Bird on the roster up to this point. In matching up with the Milwaukee Bucks in the second round, the Bucks may have been a higher seed, but this was cakework. Sidney Moncrief and Marquise Johnson, these are very good players, and I'd even call them very underrated, yet these guys shouldn't be beating Bird, McHale, and Parrish in a 7-game series, and these guys sent the Celtics packing in a 4-0 sweep. What the fuck? The Celtics were at the lowest points of the Larry Bird era. Sure, this guy was able to get them one championship, but who knew if this thing was a one-time run, or if this guy was going to elevate to the next level, and getting swept by the Milwaukee Bucks in the second round really wasn't giving anyone much hope. Around the league, the chaos was continuing. When New York has a team to be proud of, the NBA seems to be a lot more lively, and Michael Ray Richardson was carrying the city on his back. Michael Ray Richardson, nicknamed Sugar Ray for his smooth game, was a 6'5" athletic guard with elite defensive instincts and the tools to become one of the greatest guards of all time. In fact, Magic Johnson himself once said Richardson played exactly like him, and if you watch the film, it's kinda hard to disagree. After 4 years of steady growth at Montana, Sugar Ray was ready to shine in the NBA, but under coach Red Holzman, a coach known for not trusting rookies, his first season was rocky. New York Knicks fans quickly labeled him a bust, but the moment he was given a real opportunity, Richardson flipped the narrative. In his sophomore season, he exploded for 15 points.
Yeah, that's something with the Knicks fans. You know, if you ain't producing out the gate, you trash, you bust, you need to get out of town. Like, man, they really don't give you any leeway, man. They boo you out the draft sometimes if you ain't the pick they want. So that's New York for you. Gotta bring it.
A league leading 10 assists and 3 steals per game on much improved efficiency, earning an all-star selection. Just like that, he went from potential bust to the franchise's cornerstone. For Richardson, who had just spent 4 years tucked away in Montana, being the center of attention in the biggest city in the country was intoxicating. Like many young, college-aged athletes with addictive personalities and a deep desire to be liked, he surrounded himself with the wrong people doing the wrong things. What started as casual partying, bars, clubs, and recreational drug use soon spiraled into something much more dangerous. Initially, it didn't show on the court. Through his third and into the start of his fourth season, Richard kept producing. He was basically a baby Magic Johnson, arguably even quicker, and the best perimeter defender at his position. Larry Bird even said outside of Magic, Sugar Ray was the sweetest point guard in the league, but it wasn't a sudden collapse, it was a slow unraveling. His drug use became more frequent, and his performance started to dip during the 82 season. After Holzman, who Richardson respected, was fired, new coach Hubie Brown didn't tolerate his lifestyle. The partying now affected his game, and Richardson was shipped off to Golden State in a deal for Bernard King.
Yo, I wonder if Sugar Ray Richardson is on 2K when I play Era's quick play against the Knicks. When I'm done with this video, I'm going to play and see if he's on there.
Ironically, King would also spiral due to substance abuse, leading to multiple violence and sexual offenses. You really just couldn't get away from it at the time. As for Richardson, the change of scenery didn't help. He clung to the NYC lifestyle, even refusing to leave the arena until the Warriors sent someone to renegotiate his contract. Once he finally joined the team, he immediately fell apart. His partying was no longer casual, it was a full-blown addiction. His scoring dropped from 18 to 12 points per game, and his behavior became volatile. Getting into fights with teammates and coaches, Golden State just dumped him 33 games later. The former All-Star wasn't an exciting young prospect anymore. He was now a financially ruined, drug-addicted player living paycheck to paycheck. He'd reportedly burned through his NBA earnings, spending lavishly on drugs in 16 different cars. People were literally hunting him down on the East Coast for unpaid debts. A trade to the New Jersey Nets brought him back near New York, but things only got worse. Now he wasn't hitting clubs, he was visiting crack houses. His performance continued to tank, and he bounced in and out of rehab. At this time, the NBA honestly desperately needed a star to take the reign outside of just Magic and Bird duking it out. In the 1983 season, the Lakers would end up losing the NBA Finals in a 4-0 sweep to Dr. J, who at this point was clearly on his back 9 at 32 years old. This problem didn't seem to have an escape route in sight. Similar to Sugar Ray, many co-stars in the league were falling out due to the same demons that crushed the league throughout the 1970s to establish any real parity in the NBA. John Drew was once one of the league's most electric scorers, averaging near 25 points per game at his peak and earning 2 All-Star selections in the late 70s. A smooth, natural bucket getter, he looked like a future All-Star. but behind the scenes, Drew was spiraling. Introduced to cocaine in 1977, his casual use quickly morphed into a full-blown freebasing addiction. Remarkably, he kept producing on the court, masking the chaos with box scores, but his behavior became erratic, skipping practices, missing flights, and constantly chasing a high. Atlanta sent him to rehab 3 times, but nothing stuck. By 1982, the Hawks had seen enough and traded him to Utah for Dominique Wilkins. It didn't help. Within weeks, Jazz coach Frank Layden caught on. Drew missed more time, and in November of '82, he was sent back to rehab after finally admitting his problem. By 1983, the man who once averaged 24 a night was hanging on in Utah's starting lineup as just another one of the decade's countless drug problems. The NBA's behind-the-scenes chaos was a shadow the league just couldn't shake. No matter how bright the lights or how charming the stars, not even Magic Johnson with his $1 million smile and squeaky clean image could fully escape it. Magic was vocal about staying away from drugs and alcohol, and that discipline helped him dominate the league. But that's not to say he didn't have a vice of his own. As most fans know, Magic loved women, but around this time the whispers started. Rumors that his off-court lifestyle was getting more extreme than anyone.
Listen, I don't blame Magic at all because we all love women. But is it only women? Is it only? I don't know, man.
Realized. Before I was married, I truly lived the bachelor's life. I'm no Wilt Chamberlain, but as I traveled around NBA cities, I was never at a loss for female companionship. I confess that after arriving in LA in 1979, I did my best to accommodate as many women as I could. That was Magic Johnson speaking, describing how he eventually contracted HIV during his career.
Of course.
That simple phrase, accommodate as many women as I could, sums up not only Magic's life off the court, but also the lifestyles of the entire Showtime Lakers team. From the owner Jerry Buss all the way down to the 15th man on the roster, everyone embraced a culture of excess when it came to women. Jerry Buss, the Lakers owner, was infamous for his womanizing. He did a revolving door of barely legal young women, enticing them with promises of college tuition, fancy dinners, and expensive gifts.
Hey man, I want you guys to take a look at this this photo right here of this still shot with Dr. Buss and of course the legendary Hugh Hefner and the Playmates. Just take a look at this, man. Just take a look at this photo and see the smile on these guys' faces and even the smile on these ladies' faces. Hey, you know, they everybody's getting what they want. You know what I mean? They getting them, and Hugh and Dr. Buss and the ladies are getting that check. And like I said, the NBA is fantastic.
Shoes, cars, you name it. Buss even kept a photo album of his conquest to show off to his friends. But he wasn't just a player, he did genuinely help some of these women financially and stayed in touch with them to make sure they were okay after he moved on. Eccentric, absolutely. Heartless, not entirely. But Jerry Buss's escapades were tame compared to Magic Johnson's legendary womanizing. Imagine this. You arrive at a hotel in New York City with your friends, and in the lobby there's a swarm of women just waiting to throw themselves at you. Then you get to your room, and there are a dozen of perfume-scented cards scattered everywhere, each with a different woman's phone number on it. For most guys, that's a fantasy beyond belief. For Magic Johnson and the rest of the Showtime Lakers, that was just another Tuesday. Wherever the Lakers went, at least 40 to 50 women would wait in the hotel lobby for the players, mostly for...
I'll be honest, I'll be wilding out. I probably would. I'm sorry. Yeah, I would. I ain't gonna lie.
Magic Johnson. Magic saw it as his duty to accommodate as many of them as possible. He'd bring them up to his hotel room for a while, then send them on their way, no strings attached and no follow-up. Unlike Buss, Magic wasn't interested in keeping tabs or supporting these women afterwards, it was always on to the next. And it didn't stop there. After the hotel groupies, Magic would call a few of these women whose numbers he had collected for a little post-groupie pick-me-up before practice, then after practice, more women would be waiting outside the Lakers facility ready to see him. After the game, it was off to the club with teammates, with the Magic often carrying 20 to 30 women draped over his arms. And back to the hotel with a few more before calling it a night. This cycle repeated every day throughout the grueling 82-game NBA season. And if you think that's wild, wait till you hear about the parties Magic threw at his LA mansion. Hollywood actresses, strippers, college students, all invited by the dozens. Some women bragged openly about their encounters with Magic, while others kept their lives secret. At these infamous parties, it was said that by midnight, everyone had to be busy. If a woman refused, Magic would personally escort her out and ban her from further gatherings. Imagine how
Magic like, listen, bitch, if you ain't doing nothing, get out of here. If you ain't about the program, get out of here, man. Get these 3 digits. It's a joke.
explosive this story would be if it broke today. But back then, there was no social media or smartphones to catch it all on tape. But the Lakers party culture wasn't just about the players. The Forum Club, the unofficial Lakers brothel, was the epicenter of the action. After games, players from both teams rushed there to pick from a buffet of women, with Magic always arriving last to claim the spoils. Musicians, actors, athletes from other sports, anyone who was anyone in LA would show up for the drinks, women, and drugs. I mean, at this point in time, the NBA was certainly elevated from its darkest days in the 1970s, when 80s freak-offs are the whispers behind the scenes and star-level talent is still frequently declining due to issues going on behind the scenes. How great can your league's optics really be? The NBA was at a crossroad in 1983. The path of degeneracy, low ratings, and negative public perception was the most likely path for the league at this time. But lucky for them, 1984 was the most impactful season in NBA history. The year started off with a bang, with former league attorney David Stern getting the keys to the castle. Immediately, David Stern made his mark, implementing a 3-strike drug policy introduced to get players help that they needed, incentivizing taking accountability for your own mistakes, and most of all, to take care of the NBA's drug problem for good. This guy wasn't playing around. Sugar Ray Richardson may have been one of the sweetest guards in the league, but David Stern looked the man in the eyes and told him he will never play in the NBA again, slapping a lifetime ban on his wrist. John Drew didn't want to stop smoking crack rocks. Banned. The problem in the NBA didn't stop immediately, but at a time where it was rumored that 75% of the league was on drugs, David Stern made it known that for a problem.
That's what I'm talking about, David Stern. You pack them out of there. You get them out. You pack them all out of there. They gone. You can't stop using and abusing. You can't stop hooping and cruising. Well, we want you to hoop, but you know what I mean. You packing them out. Get all out of there. Rest in peace, David Stern.
This serious, the punishment was going to be even more severe, laying down the blueprint for a world with a clean NBA. With the league's biggest issue finally being addressed, this made way for one of the greatest seasons of basketball that the league had ever seen. Dr. J was looking for a repeat ring before riding away in the sunset, and had certainly made a few rivals in the league in his year so far. Magic was looking for a bounce-back season after playing the worst basketball of his career in his final sweep the year prior. And Larry Bird, after 2 years of silence, had a chip on his shoulder that led to the best basketball of his entire career. Despite only shooting 24% from deep, Larry Bird put up totals of 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 6.6 assists per game, on the way to his first MVP of his career. This guy was the most versatile offensive threat in the league, and likely the best player in the world at this point in time. Despite not yet developing the three-point consistency he'd later be known for, this guy was one of the best point forwards of all time, with a killer mid-range game, post work, and just a brain that moved quicker than everyone else's on the floor. While Magic and Kareem were essentially neck and neck on the Lakers, Bird was the clear leader of the Celtics squad that contained super legitimate depth and physicality to get back to the promised land. After a 62-20 regular season, Larry Bird carried the Celtics over the Bullets in round 1, the Knicks in round 2, and gave the Bucks a personal ass-beating of a series to get them back for the year prior, and catapult his team back into the NBA Finals. Boston was back, man. After a 2-year hiatus where Bird's longevity and legacy were given significant doubt, the best season of his career landed Boston back to where they belong. The only problem was that Magic Johnson and the Los Angeles Lakers were waiting for them on the other side. These Lakers really were having no problems with the West throughout the early 80s, man. With Magic and Kareem providing more star power than you could ask for, James Worthy quickly coming into his own, Jamal Wilkes playing really well, and Michael Cooper serving as the best Bird stopper he ever faced. The NBA was getting the matchup they so badly desired. In his 5th year in the NBA, each season had featured one of the two teams in the NBA Finals, but it took until 1984 for the worlds to collide. The war between the number 1 ranked Celtics and the team that looked to be their kryptonite was said to be one of the greatest finals matchups in history, and let's just say it didn't disappoint.
To Worthy, to Rambler, he should go the distance. Oh, look out!
And both benches have emptied, and you knew this was going to happen. You could see it coming.
Bird and Kareem fighting for the rebound, and Kareem hit him with an elbow, and he's upset. Now Bird over there saying, "Why did you hit me?" And Kareem saying, "Listen, pal."
An all-out slugfest of physicality resulted in one of the most legendary series in NBA history. Back and forth drama, late-game heroics, and some outrageous scoring explosions. Larry Bird came up huge in an OT thriller, while Magic Johnson reminded the world why he was already the greatest playmaker to ever touch a basketball. Trading wins like heavyweight punches, the series got ugly. Elbows flew, bodies hit the floor, and tempers ran high. Add in the sweltering Boston Garden, no air conditioning in games 5 and 7, and it felt like basketball in a furnace. If you're a fan of 80's basketball antics, you've rewatched.
They ain't really had no air conditioner then and during the game. The high intensity NBA Finals game between the Celtics and Lakers, Magic versus Bird, and no AC. Well, they had an AC green on the Lakers, but no AC in the building. Oh man, just playing basketball outside during the summertime in front of the sun at 2 p.m. in July. That's crazy work. I see why they got to unwind after the game. I see why.
This series more than any other. Bird dropped 27 and grabbed 14 boards in the finale, doing everything he could to bring it home. And when you're facing Magic, Kareem, and Worthy in a 100-degree hotbox, nothing feels comfortable, especially after getting hounded in LA the game before. Game 7 could have gone either way. The stakes were enormous. This wasn't just a championship, it was a potential shift in the league's power. But the Garden, packed to the gills. And then they let a few more fans in anyways. Bird didn't shoot well, but Cedric Maxwell delivered in the clutch, and Bird still found ways to impact every other part of the game. With fans creeping onto the courts and the tension at its peak, Bird sealed the game at the line, ice cold, and the Celtics claimed their 15th title. And man, this one had to feel good. Bird was now a 2-time champ, an MVP at age 27, already carving his name into the all-time list and tying Magic at 2 rings apiece, while stopping him from getting his 3rd. That probably meant more than anything else. I wasn't alive for another 15 years, but this final still gives me goosebumps, man. The 2 biggest stars in basketball emerging into their primes at the same time, finally getting their chance to show the world what they can do with a 7-game back-and-forth series that kept the world wanting more. This is why your dad won't shut the fuck up about the old days, man. Basketball was as big as it had ever been with Larry Bird on the cover of every magazine, and Magic Johnson being the star of every commercial. But if this season couldn't get any crazier with the West Coast and East Coast rivalry fully formed, the Midwest would get their own superstar that they could hang their hat on.
And now we are ready for the 3rd pick, and the Chicago Bulls, who have been drafting.
I think we all know who this gonna be. The man that about to take it to the whole nother level.
Very high down through the years, and they have the 3rd pick today.
The Chicago Bulls pick Michael Jordan of the University of North Carolina.
With a new superstar to be in Chicago, what a better piece to spice up the league at the time it was finally catching its break than adding the talent that would go on to become the greatest player it has ever seen. The 1984 season truly changed everything for the NBA, because after this point, basketball was officially must-see TV. Magic and Bird came back even better, man, with Magic increasing his statistical output up to 18, 12.6, and 6 with 62 wins for the season, only to come in 2nd place in MVP to Bird, who put up a crazy 29, 10, and 7, now shooting a ridiculous 52, 43, and 88. The Bird-Magic rivalry was looking as strong as ever, now with more than enough surrounding pieces to keep the league exciting. Jordan put up crazy totals for a rookie, scoring 26.5 points with 6 boards and 5.5 assists per game to take home the Rookie of the Year. At the same time, the Rockets and their number 2 pick in Hakeem Olajuwon made a crazy leap up 20 wins after forming one of the most unique lineups of all time with Hakeem Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson. Even the formation of the Bad Boys Pistons, who took over the league, had began to form, but let's get to that later. The league was at a high point with up-and-coming talent keeping excitement at its peak. But throughout the excitement, Bird and Magic did everything they could to keep the league in the palm of their hands.
You could really say when MJ came in '84, then you got Bird, Magic already in the prime of their careers. Then you got the Dream doing this thing in Houston, man. And of course, Isaiah and the Bad Boys starting to form and do their thing. That you could say, arguably, that's the golden age of the NBA. You know, we say the 90s, but, you know, and, you know, you say the 90s, I mean, the 2000s, you could say, yeah, the NBA, of course, grew. But, man, that particular time, man, that's the golden age, if you really think about it. You got a young MJ dunking on cats on everybody, dropping 40 here, 50 there. Bird and Magic in their primes. I mean, you can't go wrong, man. You just can't go wrong.
Bird was beating the fuck out of Dr. J for looking at him funny. Magic was farming aura by admitting to smashing 6 chicks at once. It was pretty exciting times. To make what was basically a short playoffs even shorter, Bird and the Celtics sprinted through the East, stomping out the Sixers, who were no longer on the same planet as them, and the Lakers were basically a guarantee to make the finals as long as Magic stayed healthy. So come the time for the NBA Finals, the world got the rematch they were waiting for. After a complete ass-whooping of a Game 1 from the Celtics, the Lakers flat out looked like the better team. Despite being about 72 years old, Kareem just stayed calm and consistently tossed hook shots into the basket, winning Finals MVP and getting back the Celtics in a 4-2 series win with Kareem's 29 points, Worthy's 28, and Magic's triple-double, taking down Boston on their own home turf. These guys owned the decade, man, with 5 of the first 6 chips of the 1980s going to either the Lakers or Celtics. These guys each had etched their name in the history books by this point, but by 1986, things had already started to change. The rise of the Twin Towers was unlike anything that the NBA had ever seen before. The Houston Rockets may have won just 51 games in the regular season, but come playoff time in a 7-game series, you were going to have an insanely difficult time matching up with these guys. Hakeem Olajuwon was what I believe to be the greatest defender to ever live, averaging 3.4 blocks and 2 steals per game. He was ridiculous, while his power forward sharing the block next to him was a 7'4" freak of an athlete. At a time where the Lakers literally owned the Western Conference, this team was the one that looked to be set to push them out of their position, but who would have guessed it would be this soon? Matching up with the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, Olajuwon and Sampson proved to be a total matchup nightmare for a team that was getting quite a bit older. Combining for 50, 20, and 6 with 6 blocks per game, the Lakers' repeat tour was embarrassingly shut down by a team led by a 23-year-old center in just 5 games. The Celtics had less of an issue getting through the East after a 67-win season led by Larry Bird with a rare MVP three-peat. The Celtics squad was likely the best Celtics team that the city has ever seen, but with a pair of bigs waiting for them on the other side, this matchup truly did feel like the other's biggest kryptonite. With Parrish, McHale, and the addition of former MVP Bill Walton, the Celtics may have had the second best front court in the NBA, while matching with far and away the best in the NBA. But luckily for the Celtics, with the MVP on their squad, he could provide a 24-point near triple-double to send the Rockets home in 6. Despite a bit of a shakeup, the league truly did reside in the hands of the 2 giants in LA and Boston. But unfortunately for Houston, and unfortunately for the world, this thing was about to collapse. The duo of Lewis Lloyd and Mitchell Wiggins provided the Houston Rockets with essential perimeter scoring, rounding out what was truly a championship-caliber roster. Averaging 17 and 11 points per game respectively on the Western Conference champs, these 2 shooting guards were no pushovers. Known as friendly rivals, competing for minutes and dominance at their position, they were more importantly best friends. Though somewhat detached from the rest of the team, their fierce competitiveness in practice was undeniable. Some would call them the best shooting guard tandem in the league outside of Michael Jordan, whoever the hell backed them up. But as intense as they were on the courts, they were just as wild off of it, frequently attending some of Houston's shadiest bars and clubs during the city's booming nightlife era. Lloyd and Wiggins kept their distance from teammates and found themselves mixed up with all the wrong crowds. While much of this period is undocumented and speculative, everything changed 32 games in the 87 season when one night, after leaving a club, a stranger approached them, a self-proclaimed fan, offering a bump of the finest cocaine they had ever seen. Tempted, they indulged, sparking a chain of events that would shatter their careers. The following day, after word spread of their drug use, both players were summoned privately. An anonymous tip had reached the NBA, and soon after, the shocking news broke. Both had failed drug tests, in a move that stunned the sports world. Commissioner David Stern made an example out of them, handing down lifetime bans for their very first offense. Banning
Commissioner Stern on Playboy. Even though if he like, all right, man, you take this one bump of cocaine, you out. I don't care if it's your first time. You is gone. Like, yeah, that is it. You out of here.
He really took out the Rockets for the following season, man, before lower body injuries to Ralph Sampson would essentially end his career, change the trajectory of the Rockets, and close their championship window for the time being. At the same time, Michael Jordan was battling lower body injuries. The next man up after Bird and Magic was in doubt, and the problem that David Stern had set out to stop was blasted to an all-time high. The 1986 draft was the worst of all time. It's not because of busts, but in that regard, the lack of talent didn't help it whatsoever, but more so guys like Roy Tarpley, who put together a career filled with boozing and cocaine before being banned from the NBA. Twice. Chris Washburn was the third overall pick, who played just 2 years in the NBA, averaged 3 points per game, would do enough blow to kill a man, and ended up being homeless on the street and stealing money from his aging mother's purse. But this wasn't even as bad as the story that the world couldn't stop talking about. Len Bias, drafted second overall, maybe the biggest what-if in NBA history. With a frame closer to an Olympian than a basketball player and freakish athleticism, Len Bias should have been what the Boston Celtics needed as the lucky little cherry on top to their championship season. But instead, Len Bias wouldn't make it out of draft night. After ripping line after line of that pure Colombian, Len Bias would be found dead the next morning, leaving one of the most tragic stories in NBA history. All eyes were shifting back to the league, which was supposed to be doing its best to erase these issues. Instead, players were still constantly letting it ruin their careers.
The Len Bias tragedy, not just in basketball history and sports history, it goes down as one of the tragic moments and situations you will ever find, man. The guy, one of the biggest what ifs in NBA history, without a doubt. You know, he probably would have played for the Boston Celtics, and he probably been a rival to Michael Jordan at that forward or guard position in the Eastern Conference. And man, you know, we never would have known what that looked like, man. It's crazy.
Careers. Bernard King, the replacement for crackhead Sugar Ray Richardson, was also ripping blow by the pound and committing sex crimes. The league's degeneracy was at an all-time high. But when the league thinks you're a bunch of thugs, you might as well lean into it. 1987 marked the official rise of the Bad Boys Pistons. They didn't have all the talent in the world, but what they could do was beat the living shit out of you. So, that's what they did.
Baseline goes underneath. Dishes off now to Bird. And there is a violent knockdown by Lambier. Oh my! A completely unnecessary foul by Lambier, and he pulled Bird to the ground. He slammed him to the ground. The yellow, gutless way they do things here.
Lambier.
Oh man, Bird threw the ball at him, man. Oh man.
Isaiah Thomas, Dennis Rodman, and Joe Dumars, not the most talented squad in the world, but in a league that was already as physical as any, they overstepped the line entirely to force their name into championship contention. The Pistons had ran through the East a bit before matching up with Boston, and these dudes took every shot they could to try to chip away at the much more talented ball club. I can't lie, this shit worked, pushing the Celtics to 7 games. But due to a big slip-up with the most infamous steal and dish in NBA history, and a torching hot Larry Bird in Game 7, the Celtics were able to send home the Bad Boys Pistons, but at what cost? The Celtics hobbled into the NBA Finals with an injured supporting cast that was clearly at the back half of their run of dominance, while the Lakers were there to meet them with the now MVP Magic Johnson taking home his first trophy over a young Michael Jordan who just put up a retarded 37 points per game in his 3rd season. The Lakers were able to handle the Celtics again, but really had gone through war in that Eastern Conference, and in the next season, they would have an even bigger struggle. The Celtics and Pistons would get into a rematch the following season, but there is only so much of a beating that one dude can take. Bird and the Celtics went down in 6 before back issues from his years of dominance, all started by shoveling gravel in his mom's driveway, would effectively end the Celtics' run of dominance. The Pistons were steadily improving, beating down on not only the Celtics, but the Chicago Bulls in 5 games that had what was probably already the best player on the planet. Come the finals against the Lakers, who kind of played a cake Western Conference to be honest, the Pistons in the 1988 finals looked like the better team. With Isaiah Thomas as consistent as possible, Adrian Dantley being an elite scoring punch, and an army of physical defenders, the Pistons went up 3 games to 2 before a severe ankle sprain to Isaiah Thomas would result in a 1-point loss for Detroit to push the game to 7. And this game was, well, weird. The final seconds were absolute madness. The Pistons were down 5 points with just 20 seconds left. Dennis Rodman inbounds to Vinnie Johnson, who chucks up a wild contested 30-footer. Brick. But Joe Dumars flies in, grabs the rebound, and gets the putback that cuts the lead to 3 points with 15 seconds. Detroit fouls Worthy, and it's a big moment. He misses the first, but hits the second. Lakers up 106-102. So here comes the Pistons, desperate for a shot. They move the ball around, but somehow Bill Laimbeer ends up taking a 3, and he hits it. Now it's a 1-point game, and next possession, the Pistons forget how to play defense. AC Green gets a wide open layup. Lakers lead 108-105. Just 2 seconds left, but still time for a miracle. But now things get crazy. As soon as Green's layup goes in, people start rushing the courts. Cameramen are in the middle of the floor. Laimbeer can't even see to inbound the ball. Then look at the Lakers bench, players, coach, everyone is already celebrating on the court. The game isn't over, and somehow your refs just let it play out. This is Game 7 of the NBA Finals. There are still 2 seconds.
Nah, man. Nah, the cameraman and the fans should not go on the court. The game is still in play. Anything can happen in 0.2 seconds. I know anything can't happen, obviously, but you gotta at least play it out. Come on, refs, man. That's nasty work. But you kind of already know who wanted to win.
Left. The Pistons have the ball down 3, and the court is filled with people. How is this not a technical, a delay, something? But no, plays goes on. Laimbeer threads a perfect pass to Isaiah Thomas, who sprints up the court, and then boom! Magic Johnson crashes into him, clear foul, but the ref, who is standing right there, swallows the whistle. Game over. Lakers win the title.
The NBA is fantastic. We already know. We know the fix is in. Let's be real.
Worthy gets Finals MVP, and yeah, cue the conspiracy theories. The Lakers were the league's golden child, flashy, big market, Showtime basketball. The Pistons, physical, bruising, small market villains. You tell me who the NBA wanted in the spotlight. I mean, mixed in with a ghost fouling Kareem in Game 7, the refs didn't necessarily give the Lakers a championship, but they certainly did their best. Despite a pretty BS loss, the Pistons came back the following season, sweeping Larry Bird's Celtics, beating Jordan's Bulls for the 2nd straight season, and matching up the Lakers, who hadn't lost a game all playoffs, just to get swept in a rematch for one BS series. And that does it. Kareem retired from the NBA, Bird was on his way out due to his busted back, Magic was playing but with AIDS, and the Pistons took the final championship in the 1980s as a passing of the torch into the 1990s, sparking a rivalry with the Chicago Bulls that started possibly the greatest decade in basketball history. The 1980s were wild, man. At a time where the league was sorting out their own mess they had created, the greatest rivalry in sports history carried the sport through a decade of complete chaos to truly set the stage for what would become the defining era of the sport. 1980s basketball wasn't always the best. It may not have aged as perfectly as other eras, but for a league that appeared to be on its last legs, the 1980s was such a beautiful mix of chaos, blood, sweat, and tears that still leaves us with one fascinating story over 35 years later. Thanks for watching if you made it this far. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're trying to hit 100K by the end of the year. And as always, I'll see you boys in the next one. Peace out.
Oh man, that was an amazing video by Swish County. I said country early. I'm tripping. Anyway, man, like I said, a crazy video going inside of what happens in the NBA in the 1980s. And most of that behind closed doors is what stays behind closed doors until it is exposed. And it's crazy. The NBA was on the path of being doomed, man, with the drug use, the drinking, other stuff, crazy stuff. And to see that when Bird and Magic came in to really team up and really change the game, it kind of forced things to greener pastures, and which it did. And then Mike came in at 84. Then you got the Dream, King Olajuwon came in. You know, it really brought more young blood and enthused more great talent and a clean-cut image to the league. But, you know, the league never really, it's more clean-cutter in public, but let's be honest, it's still not clean-cut as well, to be honest. But you guys down, comment below, let me know what you think about the video. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram, CartoonTaj, for any artwork. If you guys want to play me in Twitch, man, trying to get my Twitch up, get dropped off on 2K or Madden or what have you, hit me up on there. TikTok, follow me on there. You might see my animations dance. You want me to animate you and draw you, just hit me up and I'll animate you for your TikTok. My clothing merch, if you want to look fly for the summer, just tap down below for my clothing merch, and I will have a link to Swish County video down below for you can check it out on your own after you just check out my video. And subscribe to this channel, man. And you guys have a lovely day. Peace.